The accidental gardener. Maya Chen carefully pinched the wilting leaf between her fingers, examining the discoloration spreading along its veins. The university greenhouse felt particularly humid that morning, the air heavy with the scent of damp soil and green life. At 28, with a doctorate in botanical genetics and 3 published papers, she should have been well established in her field. Instead, she was watching her research funding slowly dry up like the plants she couldn't afford proper nutrients for. Bad news? Asked her colleague Raj, peering over her shoulder at the struggling specimens. The hybridization isn't taking, Maya sighed, setting down her clipboard. And the grant committee made it clear. No results, no renewal. You could always teach full-time, Raj suggested, though his tone lacked conviction. They both knew teaching positions were as scarce as research grants. Maya's phone buzzed with a notification. Job alert, she murmured, swiping open the application. Gardener needed at Valerian Embassy. Must have botanical knowledge. Competitive salary. She raised an eyebrow. The Valerians are hiring. The aliens? Raj's interest peaked. Didn't they just establish their embassy last month? They prefer extraterrestrial delegation, Maya corrected, already typing a response. And they apparently need someone who understands plants. 3 days later, Maya stood before the imposing gates of the Valerian Embassy, a renovated historic estate on the outskirts of the city. The grounds were extensive but neglected. Clearly, the previous owners hadn't prioritized landscaping. The security check was surprisingly thorough. She submitted to retinal scans and metal detection before being escorted through to the gardens. Our people value botanical harmony, explained the stern-faced human liaison. The ambassador believes maintaining Earth vegetation will demonstrate our respect for your planet's ecosystem. You'll have full access to the gardens but are restricted from the main building without escort. Maya nodded, trying to hide her excitement beneath professional composure. The salary they'd offered would cover her research expenses with enough left over to actually pay her rent on time. Left alone, Maya began assessing the gardens. She identified native species struggling alongside ornamental imports, noting soil conditions and light exposure in her notebook. Whoever had designed the space had good intentions but limited knowledge. She was so absorbed in her analysis that she didn't notice someone approaching until a voice spoke directly behind her. You understand them. Maya startled, turning to find a woman watching her with intense curiosity. She appeared to be in her early 30s with sleek dark hair cut in a sharp bob, and features that seemed almost too symmetrical. Her simple gray clothing lacked insignia or identification, but the quality of the fabric suggested it wasn't cheap. Sorry, I didn't mean to frighten you, the woman said, her accent lilting in an unfamiliar pattern. I was observing your interaction with the flora. Just taking inventory, Maya explained, extending her hand. I'm Maya Chen, the new gardener. The woman stared at the offered hand for a moment before carefully taking it. Her skin was cool and smooth, her handshake tentative as if the gesture were unfamiliar. I am Lyra, she replied simply. Are you a plant healer? Maya smiled at the unusual terminology. Botanist by training, gardener by necessity. The plants here need a lot of attention. Whoever was caring for them before didn't understand their needs. Perhaps they did not listen properly, Lyra suggested, kneeling to examine a struggling rosebush. Under the morning sunlight, Maya noticed an unusual purple undertone to Lyra's skin, likely a trick of the light against the gray clothing. Plants communicate in their way, Maya agreed, surprised by Lyra's interest. Through chemical signals, color changes, growth patterns. Lyra's eyes lit up. Yes, they speak constantly, yet few hear them. Over the next hour, Maya found herself explaining her assessment of the garden to this attentive listener. Lyra asked questions that ranged from basic to surprisingly insightful, occasionally using odd terminology that Maya attributed to English being her second language. You'll work here daily? Lyra asked as their conversation wound down. Monday through Friday and occasional weekends for special projects. Lyra nodded decisively. I will arrange for you to have whatever supplies you require. The harmony of living things is essential to proper diplomatic function. You work in diplomacy? Maya asked, realizing she hadn't inquired about Lyra's role. A small enigmatic smile curved Lyra's lips. In a manner of speaking. I must return to my duties now, but I look forward to watching your work progress. Maya Chen. As Lyra walked away toward the main building, Maya noticed two discreet figures in dark clothing seem to materialize from the shrubbery, falling into step behind her. Security personnel, Maya realized, wondering why a simple embassy worker would need guards. Shrugging off the question, she returned to her assessment. Whatever Lyra's position, her approval meant Maya would get the resources needed to transform this neglected space. And perhaps, just perhaps, the connections made here could help salvage her research career as well. What Maya couldn't know was that her new acquaintance had just left her first genuine conversation on Earth, one where she had been treated as a person rather than a diplomatic phenomenon. Princess Lyra Noxaveri, heir to the throne of Valyria and first ambassador to Earth, had finally found someone who spoke to her rather than her title. She smiled as she re-entered the embassy, already planning tomorrow's garden conversation. Seeds of connection. The embassy gardens transformed under Maya's care over the following weeks. Struggling plants regained vitality, dormant seeds awakened, and carefully planned sections began to take shape. Each morning, Maya arrived with new ideas sketched in her notebook. Indigenous plant communities, medicinal herb spirals, and flowering corridors designed to attract local pollinators. What remained consistent was Lyra's daily visits. Their conversations evolved from basic botanical discussions to deeper exchanges about ecological philosophy and the relationship between living systems. Maya found herself looking forward to these interactions, planning which garden sections to work on based on when Lyra typically appeared. These appear distressed, Lyra observed one morning, crouching beside a cluster of orchids. In the dappled light, the subtle purple undertone of her skin seemed more pronounced, reminding Maya of the rare violet orchid varieties she'd studied in graduate school. They're not native to this region, Maya explained, kneeling beside her. Orchids are extraordinarily sensitive to their environment. The smallest changes in humidity or light can affect them. Lyra nodded thoughtfully. In my homeland, we have similar species that form symbiotic relationships with their surroundings. They cannot survive transplantation without bringing elements of their entire ecosystem. That sounds fascinating. Where exactly is your homeland? Maya asked, realizing how little she knew about her daily companion. Lyra hesitated. It is distant. Our delegation is newly arrived in your country. Before Maya could inquire further, Lyra changed the subject. You mentioned research difficulties. What is your specific area of study? Maya sighed, digging her fingers into the rich soil. Drought-resistant food crops. I've been trying to develop hybrid varieties that can thrive with minimal water without genetic modification. She gestured toward the embassy. This job is keeping my research alive, literally. I use part of my salary to maintain my greenhouse at the university. Lyra's eyes widened with interest. This work, it could help regions experiencing water scarcity? That's the hope. But I've hit a wall with the current hybridization approach. The next day, Maya arrived to find a package waiting for her at the security checkpoint. Inside was a small container of iridescent soil and a note in elegant, precise handwriting. A nutrient composition from my homeland. Perhaps your struggling hybrids might respond to unfamiliar elements. When Maya tested the soil in her university lab that evening, she was astonished. It contained mineral compounds she couldn't identify, with remarkable water retention properties. Applying a diluted solution to her failing test crops yielded visible improvement within days. Their relationship shifted as Maya began bringing research samples to the garden, explaining her methodologies while Lyra offered unexpected insights that somehow always led to breakthroughs. Sometimes Lyra would speak about cultivation techniques from her homeland that seemed impossibly advanced, mentioning plants that responded to sound vibrations or communities of organisms that shared nutrients through electromagnetic fields. You know, Maya said one afternoon as they sat beneath a flowering dogwood, for someone who works at an embassy, your botanical knowledge is extraordinary. Lyra smiled enigmatically. Perhaps I simply listen better than most. Their hands brushed as they both reached to examine a soil sample, and Maya felt an unusual warmth spread up her arm. Neither woman pulled away immediately. In that moment of connection, Maya noticed how Lyra's eyes reflected light differently, almost luminescent in the late afternoon sun. Maya, Lyra said softly, if I were not what you believe me to be, would that change how you see me? Before Maya could answer, a discreet cough interrupted them. One of Lyra's ever-present security personnel stood nearby. Ma'am, The delegation from Geneva has arrived early, he said, carefully avoiding looking directly at Lyra. Lyra sighed and rose gracefully. Duty calls. I shall see you tomorrow, Maya Chen. As Maya watched her leave, she wondered about Lyra's strange question and the growing feeling that there was much more to her garden companion than met the eye. Blooming truth, the diplomatic reception was in full swing when Maya arrived at the embassy. For the first time, her work had extended beyond the gardens and into the grand ballroom, where her carefully arranged botanical displays complemented the formal event. Wearing a borrowed dress and feeling distinctly out of place, she circulated among diplomats and officials, occasionally answering questions about the unique floral arrangements. The centerpieces represent Earth's major biomes, she explained to a group of interested dignitaries. Each arrangement contains plants that naturally occur together in ecosystems from rainforest to tundra. Remarkable symbolism, commented an older man in an expensive suit. A fitting backdrop for tonight's historic announcement. Maya nodded politely, though she had no idea what announcement he meant. Her attention was focused on scanning the crowd for a glimpse of Lyra, who she hadn't seen in 3 days. Their last conversation had left her with lingering questions and an unexpected longing for her company. A hush fell over the gathering as the embassy's main doors opened. A formal procession entered, led by stern-faced officials in unfamiliar ceremonial attire. Maya caught her breath as Lyra appeared among them, but not the Lyra she knew. This Lyra wore an elaborate gown that seemed to shimmer with its own light, embedded with crystals that caught and refracted the chandelier's glow. Her posture was regal, her expression composed and distant. Most striking was her skin, which no longer attempted to mask its natural hue, a distinct lavender tone that deepened to purple at her temples and along her graceful neck. Ladies and gentlemen, announced the human, liaison Maya recognized from her first day. Her Royal Highness Crown Princess Lyra Knoxberry of Valyria, first ambassador to Earth. The room erupted in polite applause while Maya stood frozen in shock. Lyra, her Lyra, was not just Valyrian but their princess and ambassador? The woman who had knelt in the dirt beside her, who had spent hours discussing plant propagation and ecological balance, was actual royalty from another planet? As Lyra delivered a formal address about strengthening ties between their worlds, her eyes scanned the crowd and locked briefly with Maya's. A flash of vulnerability crossed her composed features before she continued her speech. Later, as diplomats networked and champagne flowed, Maya slipped away to the garden terrace. Her mind reeled with implications. Every conversation, every shared moment now took on new meaning. Had it all been some kind of diplomatic research project? A royal amusement? Maya? Lyra's voice came from behind her, softer than in the ballroom. Maya turned, taking in Lyra's true appearance without the human approximating camouflage she'd apparently been using. The purple undertones were now fully visible, her eyes slightly larger than human norm with vertical pupils that dilated in the dim light. You lied to me, Maya said simply. Lyra stepped closer. I never spoke an untruth. I merely omitted certain details of my identity. Like the fact that you're an alien princess? Would you have treated me the same if you had known? Lyra asked, echoing her unfinished question from days earlier. Every human who knows my title speaks to the crown, not to me. Except you. Her voice softened. With you, I was simply Lyra, someone who shares your love of growing things. Maya's anger faltered. Why me? Why the gardens? I needed to understand Earth through something genuine. Politics, economics, these are constructs. But your relationship with plants, with living systems, that is real. Lyra hesitated, then reached for Maya's hand. What grew between us is real. Her touch was warmer than Maya remembered, or perhaps she simply wasn't hiding her natural temperature anymore. The sensation sent ripples of awareness through Maya's body. I don't know who you really are, Maya whispered. I am exactly who I have always been with you. Lyra answered. That is why I cherish our time together. It is the only truth in a world of diplomatic performance. Behind them, security personnel materialized from the shadows, maintaining a respectful distance but clearly monitoring the princess. The gulf between their positions had never been more apparent. Yet when Lyra's fingers intertwined with hers, Maya couldn't bring herself to pull away. Part 4. Cultural Cross-Pollination, The university greenhouse was eerily quiet at midnight. Maya hunched over her workstation, surrounded by dying plant specimens. 3 weeks had passed since the revelation at the embassy, and while she continued her gardening duties, everything had changed. Lyra still visited, now openly as herself, accompanied by security and diplomatic aides who maintained a respectful distance but never quite let them be alone. Their conversations remained focused on plants, but an unspoken tension vibrated between them, questions unasked, feelings unexpressed. Meanwhile, Maya's research was failing spectacularly. The initial promising results from Lyra's mystery soil hadn't sustained, and her hybrid crops were dying faster than ever. The lab door opened, and Maya looked up in surprise as Lyra entered, alone and dressed in simple clothing reminiscent of their early garden meetings. "How did you get past campus security?" Maya asked, then shook her head. "Never mind. Royal privilege, I suppose." Lyra smiled faintly. "I may have implied that the Valyrian Earth Scientific Exchange Program required my immediate presence." She approached the workstation, examining the failing plants. "Your message sounded urgent." Maya had indeed sent a message to the embassy, never expecting Lyra herself to respond. "The hybrids are rejecting both terrestrial and Valyrian nutrients now. It's like they're caught between worlds belonging to neither." The metaphor hung heavily between them. Lyra studied the plants, her expression thoughtful. Perhaps that is precisely the issue. They exist in an in-between state, not fully of Earth, not fully of Valyria. She looked up at Maya. "Like us." The directness of her statement made Maya's heart race. Since the revelation, neither had acknowledged the personal implications of their different worlds. "Is that what we are?" "In between?" Maya asked softly. "I have been considering our situation," Lyra replied, moving closer. "On Valyria, connection is not limited by physical form or origin. What matters is resonance, the harmony between beings. And diplomacy. Royal duties? The fact that your delegation looks at me like I'm contaminating you with my human presence." Lyra sighed. "There are complications, but tonight I am not here as an ambassador or princess." She gestured to the dying plants. "I am here because you need help, and because I cannot bear to see something beautiful wither when I might save it." From her pocket, she withdrew a small crystal vial containing what appeared to be luminescent pollen. "This is prohibited," she said quietly. "Sharing unregistered Valyrian biological material violates the preliminary exchange protocols. If discovered, I would face significant diplomatic consequences." Maya stared at the vial. "Then why risk it?" "Because your work matters. Because these plants matter." Lyra paused, her lavender skin darkening slightly along her cheekbones in what Maya had come to recognize as a blush. "Because you matter to me." Together they worked through the night, applying minute amounts of the Valyrian substance to the hybrids and monitoring cellular reactions under the microscope. Lyra revealed more of her true knowledge, not the careful metaphors and simplified explanations she'd offered before, but the actual advanced understanding of her people. As dawn approached, the plants showed remarkable recovery. The hybrids had not only stabilized but were thriving, their cellular structures showing a novel integration of terrestrial and extraterrestrial properties. "They've created something new," Maya whispered in awe, examining the results. "Neither fully Earth nor Valyria, but a true hybrid that takes strength from both." Lyra stood so close that Maya could feel her warmth. "Perhaps that is the answer we both seek." When Maya looked up from the microscope, Lyra's face was inches from hers. Without the pretense of humanity, her features were subtly different, more angular, her eyes larger and more luminescent, her lavender skin gently pulsing with what might be emotion. "I have studied your human customs," Lyra whispered. "Is it appropriate for me to express my feelings physically?" Maya's breath caught. Very appropriate. Their first kiss was tentative, a gentle exploration of different worlds meeting. Lyra's lips were warmer than Maya expected, slightly sweet with an unfamiliar spice. When they parted, the princess's eyes had darkened to deep violet. "The delegation arrives in 3 hours," Lyra said regretfully. "I must return. Will I see you in the gardens tomorrow?" Lyra touched Maya's cheek. "Yes, but things cannot remain as they have been. Your breakthrough tonight, it changes everything." As Lyra slipped away into the early morning light, Maya turned back to the thriving hybrid plants. They had found a way to exist between worlds. Perhaps she and Lyra could do the same. Hybrid harmony 6 months later, the Valyrian Earth Botanical Exchange Garden opened to carefully selected visitors. Located on the embassy grounds but accessible without entering the diplomatic compound, the garden represented the first official collaboration between the two planets. Maya stood at the entrance, nervously adjusting her new uniform, a deep green suit with the dual-planet insignia of the exchange program. Around her, the garden bloomed with unprecedented life. Earth species growing alongside Valyrian plants, hybrid varieties creating vibrant borders between alien and familiar flora. "They're saying it's revolutionary," commented Dr. Reeves, the university's department chair who had once threatened to terminate Maya's funding. "The implications for drought-resistant agriculture alone." He shook his head in amazement. "And to think you're now the official Earth Botanical Liaison to Valyria. Quite a leap from struggling researcher." Maya smiled politely, though the irony wasn't lost on her. When her hybrid breakthrough had been published, with appropriate redactions of classified Valyrian biological details, the scientific community had suddenly discovered her value. The same institutions that had rejected her grant applications now sought her expertise. The garden itself had become something far greater than either she or Lyra had initially imagined. Beyond its scientific importance, it had evolved into a neutral diplomatic space, where representatives from both worlds could meet in surroundings designed to put everyone at ease. Earth officials felt comfortable among familiar plants, while Valyrians appreciated the presence of species from their homeworld. As official visitors began arriving for the opening ceremony, Maya searched the crowd for Lyra. They had spent countless hours planning this garden together, stealing moments of connection amid their work. Each interaction had deepened their understanding of one another, building a relationship that existed in the uncharted territory between their worlds. The Valyrian delegation arrived with typical ceremony, but Maya immediately noticed something different. Instead of her formal diplomatic attire, Lyra wore a simple but elegant gown that incorporated both Valyrian crystal elements and Earth-inspired botanical patterns. Her purple skin gleamed in the sunlight without any attempt to disguise its alien nature. When Lyra approached the podium to deliver her address, her eyes found Maya's in the crowd. "This garden represents more than scientific exchange," she began. "It embodies a fundamental truth about life in our universe, that diversity creates strength, that differences need not divide us, and that what grows between different worlds can be more resilient than what exists in isolation." Her words carried special meaning for them both. In the months since their first kiss in the university greenhouse, they had navigated the complexities of their unique relationship with the same careful attention they'd given to the garden's creation. There had been resistance, from the Valyrian Council concerned about royal bloodlines, from Earth officials wary of undue alien influence on a key scientific resource, but like the hybrid plants that now thrived around them, their connection had proven surprisingly resilient. After the formal ceremony, as dignitaries explored the garden paths, Lyra and Maya slipped away to their favorite section, a quiet grotto where a small stream bubbled over stones brought from Valyria's sacred valleys. Here, earth willows intertwined with luminescent Valyrian vines, creating a canopy of green and soft purple light. "The council has approved my proposal," Lyra said, taking Maya's hands in hers. "The botanical exchange program will be expanded, with regular travel between Earth and Valyria for qualified researchers." "And its directors?" Maya asked, already suspecting the answer. "We'll include the Earth Botanical Liaison and the Valyrian Crown Princess," Lyra confirmed with a smile. "We will divide our time between worlds as befits those who belong to both." Maya looked around at the garden they had created, a living symbol of what could grow in the space between different worlds. "Do you think they understand what they've approved? That this is more than a scientific program?" Lyra's laugh was like music. "I suspect they understand perfectly well. As it happens, you are not the first human to form a bond with someone from my world. You are, however, the first to capture the heart of a princess." She drew Maya closer, her purple skin luminous with happiness. "In Valyrian tradition, we believe that when two beings from different worlds create something new together, the universe itself celebrates. As they sealed their commitment with a kiss beneath the intertwined canopy, the plants around them seemed to pulse with shared energy, Earth and Valyria, human and alien, finding harmony in their differences and strength in their connection. The garden would continue to grow and evolve, just as they would, pioneering a path for others to follow, a living testament to the possibility that love, like life itself, finds a way to flourish even across the vastness of space.